All right, y'all are gonna have to tell me who's here and who's not. I don't know what side yours is on. My side, the comment section is over here. Your side, it's over here. All I can see up here is a little number that tells me how many people are here. So do me a favor so I know and just write who's here and who's not. And I'll try to get my cell phone. This class A, or no, this class C, which you can see is a dump. Look at all my clothes back there. It's a dump because I made it a dump. It's very tiny, so I'm sorry for the bad lighting, but I don't have a whole lot to work with here. Let's see. Anyway, we'll give it a couple minutes and see who else gets on here. But yeah, I need you to use the comment section and tell me who's here and who's not. I know you have one over here, and so far it's still empty. Here we go. I'm on the phone, so I don't see the comments of Paul Russell. Paul, God bless you. I want to know who I'm talking to. All right. Stand by. Bye. Andrea. Hi, Andrea. We'll get, I don't know, maybe 15 and then we'll rock and roll because I'm tired. I am tired. Ronnie Hall thinks we should. Oh, I'm not going to tell you what I got just yet, although I think a bunch of you have figured it out. All right, we're almost one more to 15, and then we're at 15. That's all I need. 15, ready to go. All right, I'm going to back up and kind of go through everything that's transpired because originally I was going to do this whole long blown out video, but the fact of the matter is the second I pick up the War Wagon, like we are off to the races in redesigning the War Wagon. We got all these videos, so it's just we're going to knock it out here instead. All right, so behind me, I did that. That's my fault. Those are all my pajamas. So what we did was I told you that everything going on at Lazy Days was just an absolute shit show. And when, they told me that I could not inspect the Tiffin until after I bought it, I'm going to let you guess how many New Jersey words flew out of my mouth. I mean, it was bad. It was not good. So that was it. I was done. And I mean that sincerely. Like it has been, I sold the van at the end of September. It's almost the end of November. And I've not been like sitting on the couch eating bonbons during that time. Now I sound like my mother. She always used to say that. Damn it. Anyway, I've been in the car and now it's really cold. And so I will say that, and Patreon Deb, who orchestrated this whole thing. She made a really good point because Deb works, well, she works in a lot of different industries, but one of the things that she's done is a lot of emergency management. And she said, there are repercussions to being displaced for long amounts of time. And the biggest thing that was happening to me while I was living in the car, and at this point, after my experience living in the car, I don't give a damn how many YouTubers say they live in their car and it's the greatest thing ever and blah, blah, blah. It's horrible. It is manageable for a short amount of time and you can do it. But I would never advise anyone under the sun to stay in their vehicle. And I don't consider myself too much of a princess. The biggest thing that was happening towards the end of this stint was severe sleep deprivation that was having some major physical and mental ramifications. And the only short story I'll tell of that is that, remember those group of senior citizens that before I left in the van, I gave the speech to, and then they all flipped off the camera? If you've not been watching the whole time, that will probably sound unusual. Nothing should sound unusual on this channel anymore. I'm really sorry about the dark light. It is what it is. Anyway, I was scheduled to give a speech about the whole trip in the van, but in the morning I was shooting the documentary with the drug agents, and so I did that, and then the last thing I remembered was I got gas. And then at 10 o'clock at night was the next time I had a clear thought, and I couldn't find my laptop, and I was calling all the drug agents and freaking out, and I couldn't find my laptop, and it had all my documentary and like all this other stuff on it. And I was blowing up their phones and I was like, oh my God, someone stole my laptop. I was at the gas station, but I never leave my car unlocked. And they said, well, what about that speech you gave? Like, did you take it to the speech? And I said, what speech? I had no memory of leaving a drug operation, driving 40 minutes across town, giving a 2-hour speech, and then doing a 30-minute Q&A, and then driving all the way back home, and then 2 more hours passing until 10 o'clock. Everything that happened in that span of time, I had absolutely no knowledge that I had done. I forgot. And that is one of the things that happens when you have severe sleep deprivation, is you totally lose short-term memory. And at that point, I was like, this is too much. This has just gone way past the point of sanity. So when the Tiffin fell through because they wouldn't let me inspect a humongous diesel engine, I'll add that Tiffin's used to use something called the Max Force 7 engine. It's a diesel engine, and it had issues, which is why Tiffin only uses Cummins engines now. So I knew that the engine had issues. They wouldn't let me touch it. So everything fell apart with Lazy Days. I told the man on the other end of the phone some really choice words that were not Christian words. Well, they were not maybe other Christian words. They were my Christian words. And then that was it. I was not going to look anymore. I was just going to get an apartment, call it a day, because I now was having some like severe physical and mental and emotional impacts of the sleep deprivation and living in the car. So I talked to Patreon Deb about it, who is a very good friend of mine at this point. She's stuck with me. It's too bad. That's it. Once I get attached, like, you're in it to win it with me. And I told her what was going on. And Deb has way more business experience than I do. And so she called down to Lazy Days and just I'll just say that she kind of like poked around to see what was going on with the Tiffin. And we got a new salesperson. And this is where having a girl gang and other people, when you are doing big things like this, kind of like the van. Remember I had all my friends like come and help me with the van? This is no different. And I will say, when you're buying an RV, buying an RV, you either have to have a ton of money or be really stupid. And then if you're on one of those sides of the spectrum, it'll be fun. If you're anywhere in between, it's going to be a nightmare because, well, for reasons I'll go into later. So I would not recommend doing this by yourself because you just get so much information thrown at you and it's not honest. RV selling dealerships is like one sidestep away from getting a Casey Roman documentary. And I'll go into some of the shady stuff in a second. But I was so distraught at that point that Patreon Deb, who is also a personal friend of mine, stepped in, called down there. And the big thing she did was she got me in touch with a better salesperson. And so that's lesson number one, is that the dealership is not necessarily reflective of the, dozens, or in Lazy Days case, hundreds of salespeople they have. And so if, I think that when we're buying these things, you just call and you say what you're interested in. And then often you get like whoever answered the phone or whoever responded to that email. And in retrospect, if I was doing this again, I would say what you need to do is call and explain the kind of person that you want to work with. And I wish I had done that from day one, because I am I'm very, funny and like to have fun and very sarcastic and all that. But when I'm talking about money and business purchases, there's like a different Casey Roman that comes out. I wouldn't want to deal with that Casey Roman. But I do not crack jokes and like try to be funny when I'm making a purchase for my business. And this is also my first time home. So I needed like the most straightforward, no bullshit, bottom line kind of human being. And that's not what I got the first time. So if you're going to go buy an RV or a van or anything else, please don't just call and just take whoever you get. Call and say, who is and then if you want a woman, if you want someone with, a young person who's got a lot of energy, if you want someone with lots of experience, like ask for that person, because this whole thing went to shit because I took who answered the phone, and that was the worst person to deal with, because not only would he, not deal with me with the engine, but he also called me baby and dear. And I understand that in the South, those words are used a lot, which is fine. I call people honey a lot, but always in a lighthearted, I know you, I'm comfortable with you kind of way. And I had to let this guy know that baby was writing the check. And so say my name with a little respect. So we got a new salesperson. And then not only did Patreon Deb kind of pull me out of the trenches of wanting to kill people, specifically that man, but she also said, I will go down with you and kind of be your backup crew. And then she convinced Battlefield Becky, who's also a friend of ours, to come with her. So we came into Tampa on bird formation, kids. I would not have liked to have seen down the highway, but we got down here and we have been staying in the Lazy Days campground, which I have nothing but wonderful things to say about, except the fitness room. The fitness room sucks, but the campground is really nice. A lot of great people here. And there's a gang of feral cats that we are trying to adopt / take home. I'm going to save that for a different video. But we got here, and then yesterday was D-Day. So yesterday I was going to see the Tiffin. They agreed to hold the Tiffin. Some of you know that when the first deal fell apart on the Tiffin, the guy said, oh, that's fine. I've already got another person buying it. I've already got another deposit on it. And shocking, it was still there the next day. That is so crazy. So anyway, I got there, I met the new salesperson, and the new salesperson is much more black and white, cut and dry. He's actually a former NFL player. By the way, I'm going to interrupt and say that, again, this whole comment section that's over here, y'all are allowed to use that. Otherwise, it's just going to be me talking to this computer the whole time. So please exercise the comment section. Hello, Wolfgang Lauer. I'm glad you're here. All right. So I go there, and I told him I want to see the Tiffin. That's what I'm here for. But something happened in between that time that kind of changed everything. And that was the belt on the Scion broke or shredded, or I don't even know. The Scion is like an end of life. And that was my home. Hello, Cindy. So when the Scion broke and I had to get up to Raleigh right before we left, I had to rent a car. And when I rent a car, they said, well, all we have is a truck. And I was like, all right, whatever, I don't care. I just have to get up to Raleigh. And they put me in that truck, and ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what happened, but like it was all unicorns and sparkles. And I loved that truck. And my wheels started turning about how I wanted to live, the fact that the Scion is kind of falling apart. And I just got things going where I thought, I want to look at trailers. I want to look at trailers, and I understand all the reasons why people don't like trailers, but I want to look at trailers because in this season, we already did the turn and burn, all the different cities, pull in, have no idea what we're doing. We did that in the van. The van was perfect for that. But now I have much more targeted travel. I know that I'm going to this city and I'm going to explore there for this amount of time. And then when, I'm working with my DC peeps, I'm going to be here and for this amount of time. And for this documentary, I'm going to be in Wilmington for this amount of time. So I thought I want something where I'm going to be able to pull that, pull my home, whatever it is, and then take, detach and be able to scoot around in something smaller. With the Tiffin, I was going to have to pull the Scion. The smallest car trailer is 16 feet. So I've got a 33-foot rig and a 16-foot trailer plus the tow. Huge. Plus the Scion is falling apart. So that's kind of when the wheels got turning about getting a trailer or something like that. So when I got to the dealership at Lazy Days to look at the Tiffin, I said, before we go to that Tiffin, Clay, hashtag pray for Clay, the new sales guy, I said, I want to go over and look at the trailers. So the second lesson of this whole thing for other people is really put some thought into what you're going to be doing for at least the next year with that RV. I got a ton of pressure to go buy another van and build it. No matter how many times I said, I do not have the space to do construction. I do not have the will to do construction. People were so hell bent on seeing another van get built. That wasn't going to happen. I got a ton of pressure to go look at a Class B. I did not want a Class B. It did not solve any of the problems of the van. And I did not want a Class C because I hate those tumors. And this is a Cruise America rental that the three of us are using our own respective. And this, to me, still does not solve the problems. So you really have to think about before what you buy. I don't care what you think is cool. I don't care what someone on YouTube is using. You have to think about how you're going to use it and then buy for that. And I knew that in this next year with this documentary and like all these places I'm going to shoot video, that I was not going to be just jutting into these little towns. I was going to have much more targeted travel. So I could change my options based on that. So please think about how you're going to use it. How many people have you seen out on the road who are like over 65? They get this big ass RV, the Tiffin, the 45-foot, whatever it is, and it sits in their garage forever. It made no sense. Think about what you're going to use it for. And I don't care what somebody else is using. You need to think about how you're going to use it. All right. So we headed over to the travel trailers. The travel trailer was not going to work because travel trailers have to be extremely light. So when you walk in, you kind of feel like you're in a glorified Tupperware container. James just said he lived in a trailer for 3 years and the detachability was what made it livable. So yes, that's what I wanted, the detachability. James pulled it out for 3 years, made it work. I did not want to do the travel trailer because given the fact that they have to stay so light, you cannot put a generator on board. It will shake the shit out of that travel trailer, and it's not meant to do that. It's not meant to carry that weight. They're meant to be very light. When you look at them, look at their marketing, it all says like super light or mini light or all this other light. So that wasn't going to work. The only way to make that work was to carry your generator, kind of like I did in the van, and then park the trailer and then go chain up the generator outside of the travel trailer or have it plugged into a campsite. And I did the chain up the generator thing in the van, and I did not particularly like it. So that wasn't going to be an option. I did not like that option. And I didn't go into any travel trailer that I got inside, and I was like, oh, like this is really cool. So the next thing we looked at was a toy hauler. A toy hauler is a much larger trailer, but in the back of it has a garage for you to put your toys, meaning your car, your bikes, your motorcycles, whatever. So you can actually drive it up into the back of the trailer and you've got this little garage. And I thought that would be perfect because given its size and the way it's designed, you can have a generator on board in a toy hauler. And I thought I'll put my whole office in that garage. But you have to make a sacrifice that I was not willing to make. Because so much of that trailer is the garage for the toy, your living space gets compacted down an awful lot. And because that's a garage, it kind of feels like a garage. When I'm sitting at this laptop and like editing for hours on end, I want to be like all the feels. I want to put on my Tinkerbell pajamas and my bathrobe. Okay, so third piece of advice. You will get a ton of advice when you are trying to pick this out. And how endless comments and emails and everything else where people are like, just build one of those, like pull up the desk or pull the desk down and do this and do that, or, go work outside or go work in the driver's seat. And what I say to that kind of feedback that you need to think about when you're getting advice about buying a rig is, when you think about the things you don't really want to sacrifice on, one of mine is I want to have a comfortable office because I spend so much time editing. So when someone tells me to get a fold-up desk or like use the kitchen table as the desk or just do my work in my bed, what I say to them is, so if you were starting a new job and your boss said every day at 5 o'clock, I need you to pack up your entire office, all of it. You have to pack up your entire office and put it away. And then tomorrow morning when you get back here, you bring out your whole office again. Every day you're going to unpack your whole office. You would say, that's insane. I'm not working here. I'm not breaking down my whole office and then putting it back up. That's what you would say. So why should my situation be different? Why should I not get that same accommodation? And if I have the opportunity to build that accommodation for myself, why wouldn't I? So I understand that sometimes in these van videos, you see someone out on a beach with a hammock and their laptop. That's bullshit, and only an idiot brings a laptop out anywhere near sand. That's stupid. It's all marketing. So, or when someone says, well, you don't need a full kitchen. You could just have these, teeny tiny kitchen. Like, you're not a big cook. And I say, okay, well, when you were going to buy a home, if they showed you a home and it had this much counter space, would you buy that home? And they said, well, no, I wouldn't buy that home, but that's my home. And I say, right, this is my home. So I don't want to make that sacrifice. This is my home. This is my full-time thing. I never thought it would be my full-time thing, but it is. So think about how you want to live if you're going to live in your rig. And just because other people on YouTube or elsewhere tell you that you can use a fold down desk or you don't need a big this or you'll be perfectly fine breaking down your bed and setting it up every day. You really need to think about how you want to live. And then I would say be stubborn on those issues, because every single day, this is the rig. What I'm buying is what on my very best day, on my very worst day, when I am very sick, when I am very happy, sad, all that is what you're coming home to. So stick to the things you don't want to make sacrifices on, and don't make sacrifices on them. It's your rig. Yeah. Okay. Now, so the toy hauler, I did not want to make the sacrifices on my living space. I like the garage thing. That was kind of cool. You have to condense that down, and I just didn't really like it. So then we got to the fifth wheels. Now, the funny thing about fifth wheels is I have always made fun of people who own fifth wheels, kind of like solar, right? Kind of like solar. I lost my tea cover. Y'all know I drink tea in the bucket form. Anyway, I did not like fifth wheels because they're huge. They've got that big bulb thing and you need a big truck. And I just thought, like, God, at that point, just get a house, right? It's too much. So then we went in the fifth wheel, and I didn't like a lot of them. They also felt kind of plasticky. A lot of that plasticky comes from the plasticky couch cushions they use. It's a lot of off-gassing. But we looked at a bunch of them, and I didn't really like any of those options. I also didn't want to tow something that was like 40 feet plus a truck. And then what happened was the night before, Battlefield Becky found the bunkhouse option. And I so wish that right now I could share my screen with you so you could see everything that I looked at on the trailer. I am going to do a tour of the rig. I just can't do it today. So we went into this one. The other issue with Class 8 or fifth wheels is that a lot of them have a center island. And when they have all the slides out, it's like, oh my God, there's a center island and there's a double sink and like, oh, it's a palatial thing. It's amazing. And it is. However, I move around quite a bit. And I can't always put the slides out because sometimes in Walmart or other parking lots, truck stops, rest stops, you can't put your slides out. So I had to look at everything with the slides in. So worst case scenario, could I use that rig? In a fifth wheel with a center island. If you have those slides in, you can't get to the kitchen. You can't use the stove. You can't open the fridge. So you are only getting to kind of the essentials in your rig if the slides are open. And I knew that wasn't going to work for me. And Clay told me, he was like, that's how they're all designed. But when you need something, you ask your lady gang. Becky the night before had found a bunkhouse option, which I fought her on because I fight everyone on everything. It's just what I do. It's just what Ginger Ninjas do, okay? So I said, I don't want a bunk bed. I don't have any little ankle biters. I don't want that. It's right. Everyone in the comment section is cheering for Becky. Go, Becky. And Becky was looking at this and she's like, I don't know. I think this is. So we get into the bunkhouse option, and Casey heard the angels sing. And here's why. And when I show this to you, I think y'all will see where my vision came clear. There's 2 slides. Most of these fifth wheels have like 6 slides. No. So there's 2 slides, the same amount of slides as a Tiffin. The slide is not on the kitchen. And the counter space, I could slaughter a cow on this counter space. I mean, it is from the door to the wall and then around the corner. And it's not that plastic counter. Oh no, my Americans and any other country who's up in here. It is solid, nice counter space. There is a nice big sink, nice stove. I mean, like the whole kitchen, and with the slide in, the refrigerator's on the slide. Guys, it has double refrigerator doors and double freezer doors. I mean, I won't have to go food shopping every day. Remember I had to go food shopping every day in the van? That sucked. It was manageable, but like I didn't really like it. I will be able to put my buckets of hummus, all the hummus in the world, in here, and I'll be able to open it up like I'm opening up the gates of heaven and just see all my hummus. Oh, that was amazing. This poor guy, because I was like freaking out inside this thing, and he was like, ma'am, it's just a fifth wheel. I'm like, no, it's not a fifth wheel. Hashtag pray for Clay. It's a war wagon. Show some respect. And don't call me baby. Anyway, so the kitchen was fully operable regardless of the slide. Then I told her, I said, Clay, put that slide in, because if it's claustrophobic in here, this is not going to work for me. Clay puts the slide in. There was one distinct disadvantage to the slide in, which Becky's already solved that problem too. I'm never going to let her go. Never let go of your girl gang. The disadvantage of when the slide is in is that you can't get to the bunk room, and I will explain that in a second. Otherwise, it is totally fine. You can use everything. You can use the couch. You can use a dinette. God knows in fifth wheels, there's like 80 different couches to sit on. I don't know why, but there are. The TV is there. There's a fireplace. There's a fireplace in this thing. It's divine. I can't wait for y'all to see it. Anyway, so that was going to be fine. And then we went into the bunk room. The bunk room is its own separate room at the far rear of the rig. And this is beneficial that that's back there and not the kitchen, because you really want your kitchen appliances on a fifth wheel or a trailer to be right over the axle, so that when the rig is moving, there's less shake over the axle. That was my concern with getting a completely rear kitchen. Pay attention to that if you're buying a fifth wheel, a travel trailer, or a toy hauler. If all the appliances are at the way back, then just know that they're going to shake a lot, and that will probably damage them. Anyway, I'm trying to read these silly comments, moms. So the bunk room is its own thing. It has its own door. It is in the way back. And I saw that bunk room. Now, no part of me said, and this is where my little future children will go. Absolutely not. Hard no on that. I also didn't say, this is where all my friends can stay when I take them on my trips. Hell no. Get your own travel trailer. You can get a hotel. You are not coming up in this thing. No, instead, I saw my, not just office, my editing studio. Because Battlefield Becky, is also a carpenter. Yes! Go Becky. Someone write Go Becky in that comment section. The whole thing can be converted. I'm going to put the soundproof material that I used to have in the TV station all around the walls. I got to kind of fangle the bunk beds, and that will be where the magic happens. I'm going to have all my editing in there. That will be a special room dedicated to what makes all of this possible. And that is just the coolest thing ever, because everything else we were looking at, what do we have to do? We're going to have to pull out couches. And then the desk was going to be next to the kitchen. I'd be able to like edit and then like, do a dish in the sink and then edit, to flip some pancakes on the stove. That's not true. I don't eat pancakes. They go straight to your ass. Got to keep it skinny. So this whole bunk room was going to be the office, and it had a door. I could close it off. Oh, I was so thrilled. The bedroom, I barely paid any attention to the bedroom. Bedroom is its own thing. It's up there, bathroom, blah, 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 blah. But it was 33 feet long. So that means that about 4 feet of that are over the truck bed. So I'm only towing about 29 feet, which is not too much. It's really not. So I was in love. I'll post a link to the actual listing so you can see all the pictures. But I was definitely feeling this. But I also know the disadvantages of a fifth wheel. It's a lot to pull. I have to get a truck that is a huge truck. And, there'll be no like bopping in and like totally unplanned and just park it anywhere. When you own something this big, Class A, fifth wheel, travel trailer, any of that, once you take the leap off of B's and small C's, you have to plan your trips. That's the change that has to happen. There's no like, well, maybe I'll just find a parking spot. People are like, oh my God, you won't be stealth anymore. I'm like, well, stealth was bullshit from the beginning. People knew I was in there. They just didn't care. I'd love to see someone try to tow a truck and a fifth wheel. Like, by all means, have at it. So there's going to be a lot more planning if you own something that big. That's just how it's going to be. The other sexy thing about the fifth wheel, it's very rare for a fifth wheel to have automatic levelers. This one does. It has automatic levelers. They're not inside, they're outside. But you put down the legs while the truck is still there, you hit a button, and it levels itself out. If you are buying anything bigger than a B, you need to ask, does this have levelers? Now, a lot of people don't think that's a big deal because they're only taking their rig out like 2 times a year, and you'll see them in the Walmart parking lot. It's always a couple. The woman's driving, the man's outside with those blocks, those things you shove under the tires, and they get into like a huge fight and like have a hissy fit out in the parking lot because he's yelling at her to turn this way and she doesn't. And you have to manually level it. Class B's, you don't have to level. If you don't level it, you will screw up your refrigerator. You got to level it. So that's fine if you're taking like 2 trips a year, but I might have to level every single day or every week. And I am not, let me repeat, I am not standing outside in the rain, in the cold, in my Tinkerbell pajamas with leveling blocks and like, try scooting it out and then run outside and like push the block and then run back in and then push the block. And no, if you are a solo traveler, you are absolutely going to want automatic leveling. You can install them after the fact if you want to spend $5,000. Me? No, not so much. I want them on the rig. It is not very common for fifth wheels to have automatic levels. This one did. Huge plus. It does not have a generator on board. However, it can be equipped with one. So you can go up to, I think, about a 5,000 watt generator, which is huge, huge. Okay. So there were all these great things. I understand the sacrifices of a fifth wheel. You are not stealth. You have a lot of planning to do. It is a big ass thing. You have to buy a big ass truck. I get it. Then we walk to the Tiffin. Ladies and gentlemen, here's where the story gets really kind of crazy. And I will have some pictures up for you later. The Tiffin, I had been told by dude number one, this thing was in mint condition. This is a Tiffin. Now, if you know anything about Tiffin is kind of a cult. I mean, people who could get service work done anywhere in America drive their Tiffin to Red Bay, Alabama, where Tiffins are made, just so they can be around other Tiffin owners and like scratch each other's backs and look at each other's Tiffins. They are extremely expensive. Brand new, you are looking at $250 to $500 to $600,000. And you also notice with Tiffin owners is that they use them for like 1 year and then they trade it out for a new thing, take a hit on all that depreciation just so they can see the new bells and whistles in a different one. So I was told about this used Tiffin that was on sale for $80,000. Class A, had 40,000 miles on it, 2012, that they said it's in mint condition. And I was getting all this on the phone. The pictures look great. That Tiffin owners don't abuse their stuff. And, it's a beautiful Tiffin. And I can't believe we're selling it for this cheap and da-da-da. And I was feeling like kind of insecure that maybe I was not showing appreciation for the sales price. So we get to the Tiffin. On the Tiffin windshield, there's already a sticker in big letters says sold to Casey Roman. They are like wrapping this sale up. He opens the door to the Tiffin, and the first thing I notice is that the stairs are completely torn up. Okay, they're going to take a lot of wear and tear, but it only has 40,000 miles on it. We walk up into the Tiffin, and all I can see is how busted up that paint is. The paint, I fell in love with it because it had ivory cabinets. First of all, I know ivory. They were yellow. They're yellow cabinets. They're not ivory. So it felt a lot smaller inside. Now, both the slides were in. The paint on the cabinets was torn up. I will show you some pictures. There were cracks in the paint. The paint was shredded in some areas. It was just completely ripped off in some areas. The dashboard, a Class A, it's like this. I mean, you feel like you're in a Boeing airplane. The control panels, there were cracks in the control panels. It was dirty. All the cabinets around the handles had like big black smudges. Now that stuff they can clean off, but it was still, when I see that kind of dirt, and we went through this on the other rigs, if somebody does not take the time to clean or maintain a $250,000 investment, that tells me that they probably did not treat the engine well. If people are not willing to maintain the area that they live in, to me, I have very low confidence on how they treated everything else. And if you were willing to live in an RV that was that expensive that you spent $250,000 for, and that you did not clean it, you did not care, you left it filthy, you let the paint crack, you let that, everything else like get kind of worn, and you did that in only 40,000 miles, I'm going to take a wild guess that you didn't treat the underbelly and everything else with a whole lot of respect. And that's a damn shame because that's a beautiful vehicle. So going through the front of the coach and lots of paint is messed up. And then I get to the refrigerator. I open up the refrigerator. It looked, every single grate in there was completely rusted. Totally rusted out. And I was like, you guys, you told me this is in mint condition. Is that a huge deal? No, it's not. You can replace those. But I came down here with my lady gang because you said this was flawless and that I was the one who didn't understand the value. And this looks like in a movie where they go into like the shady house where the drug dealer lives, like that kind of old school kitchen where everything's rusted out inside. Totally rusted. The countertop is all scratched. It's not really like a huge deal. In the space between the shower and the toilet, we look up and there is a very large water stain on the roof. How the hell did that happen? Pay attention when you're buying a rig. Ask them how many pieces the roof is. In a lot of these new designs, because they finally caught up with the issues, and in Tiffin specifically, Tiffin brags all day long that their roof is a one-piece roof. It is a single piece. They're trying to eliminate the seams so that water doesn't get in. How the hell did water get in here? The plumbing is run from the bottom up. There's no plumbing overhead. It's not like there's an upstairs bathroom up there. I have no idea. Jane just said maybe dead Barbara lived in there. That's not funny, Jane. It is funny. But there's a large water stain on the roof in the bathroom. That like all the red lights went off in my head because I can't understand how that got there. It shouldn't. It like defies logic how that got there. The toilet in a $250,000 RV is a plastic toilet. Again, not a huge deal, but I was like, are you serious? And then I get into the bedroom, and the paint, the ivory paint on the walls, they had put like those command strips or like, the stick on stupid things, and had just ripped them off, and there were holes in the paint. And I was like, how, now I know why it's on sale. It's because you can't sell it. It's because you can't sell it. The first guy on the phone with Tiffin, and this is an issue across the entire RV industry that makes it shady, 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 is that when they take in a trade-in, the first dude told me, well, we just wipe it down and put it back on the lot. Well, they hadn't even wiped it down. So please know, if you are going to buy a used RV from a dealership, they do not inspect that thing. They do not clean that thing. They take it, they give someone, pretty low value on it. They swap it out for a new RV, and then they put it right back on the lot. They do not, under no circumstances, assume that there was a pre-inspection done or that they had any clue what they were buying besides like a basic look over. So the reason that thing is on sale is because they can't sell it, because any sane person is going to walk in that thing and be like, I don't want to repaint this hole. It's dirty. There's a water spot. They can't sell it. That's what I almost bought. That's what someone told me on the phone, that I had no idea how valuable it was, how great of a deal I was getting. The tires, they fought me on the tires. I said it needed new tires. The tires were like bald in some spots. So that was what the issue was with the Tiffin. And so at this point, I pretty much knew what I was going to do, but I did not tell Becky or Deb, because I also thought I might be overreacting. At this point, I am so worn out with lack of sleep and stress and everything else, and so angry, that I just didn't want to say anything. So I called them and told them to come down. Then we went on a test drive with the Tiffin, because we're still trying to sell the Tiffin pretty hard. Also, please know, if you buy from a used dealership, none of them have service records. None. And they will tell you that it's because of the Patriot Act and they have to respect the privacy of other people. That's bullshit. And any mechanic will confirm that's bullshit. The reason that they do that is because we all know that if you have a house and a car at the same time and you shake the shit out of it on the road, there's going to be stuff that goes wrong with it. If dealerships kept the service records that showed all the things that people have to fix on an RV, even when they're brand new, people won't buy the RVs. So they do not collect service records. That means when you buy a used vehicle from a dealership, you are buying a black box. You have no idea what went on with this hugely expensive thing in all the years before you touched it. And that to me is criminal. The fact that no legislator or anybody else has come up with some kind of lemon law for RVs to protect people is insane. You could never do that on a used car. You could never say, I don't have any service records. I can't tell you anything that happened about it. And you can't inspect it until you can't inspect the chassis or the engine until it leaves. You can never do that with a car. You can do it with an RV, because most people, when they're buying an RV, are not buying like I am. It's a couple, it's going to be their like little vacation thing. They're going to use it 3 times a year. So they're not going to see the problems as fast as I will. I'm going to see them really quick because I'm in it every day. They might not notice that thing that maybe an inspection or some kind of anything would have caught early on. They're not going to notice it until 9 months down the line, because they're only using it 3 times a year. So RV dealerships get away with it. Used cars would not get away with that, because people are in them every single day. So it's the nature of the purchase, and it's also that people are in there and it's their vacation thing. You look around like an RV dealership when everyone's so excited. And then there's me when I'm like, oh. It's not a serious purchase to a lot of people. It's a fun vacation thing. They're looking at the fixtures. They're looking at the colors, or, thinking about where they're going to go. And I'm thinking about my house. So I'm a different kind of buyer. So RV dealerships get away with murder on what they're supplying to consumers and information, because consumers don't demand it, because to them, this is not a serious purchase. To me, this is enormous. Okay, let's get back to the test drive with the Tiffin. We get up into the RV, my big concern was I going to be able to handle driving something that large? I will tell you that yes, it was absolutely intimidating. You sit so high up. The steering wheel is not like this. It's flat like a bus, or kind of flat. We get in there and the seat belt has no retraction. Neither of the seat belts had any we had to like fix the seat belt because in the event of an accident, it would have just been like, ugh. I'm like, okay, great. When you're driving a Class A, there is an air brake. The whole driving system is totally different. It's a whole involved thing, but you were up so high, and we went right out onto the highway. It's like, all right, hashtag pray for Clay. That's bold, but I mean, bring it, man. Let's take it up the interstate. I'm good if you're good. Scared the piss out of me. When you're up that high, you're used to when you're in a car, when like 18 wheelers and tractors, when those big vehicles pass you, you see the wheel. You see the bottom of the truck. When you're in a Class A, you see him. You see the driver. You see the roof of his truck. So it's a really intimidating thing to drive. And you also take up the entire lane, which you're not used to. Is it something that you can overcome? Absolutely. And I will say that I got many people, not necessarily no Patreon people, but YouTube people and also friends, they said, we're trying to intimidate me out of getting a Class A because they thought I wouldn't be able to drive it. It would be too much to drive. And that, I'm going to put a hard stop on that. Please, women to other women, do not say that you cannot drive these things. You can absolutely drive them. You just have to get used to it. By the end of the test drive, I had made hard left turns, hard right turns, and backed it in. I'm 5'2", and I am not an awesome driver. So it can be done. So if you are buying a rig and you are a solo female traveler, don't think that you can't drive these things. You can absolutely drive them. You could probably drive them better than men because most of the time we're actually paying attention. 10 and 2, right, girls? All right. The final nail in the coffin for the Tiffin was the shake in the steering wheel. And I don't actually know what causes this, but this was just after the like train wreck of everything else that was wrong with it. I had, I'm holding up here and I'm like white knuckled because I'm like with the tractor trailers and this is a huge thing. And I don't want Clay to die on this test drive. I knew I would make it. So there was a 4 to 5 inch give. And maybe someone can hopefully add, I know we have some truck drivers here, but if someone can add what causes that, there was this 4 to 5 inch wiggle on the steering wheel. Yes. Rebuilding Ruins said it's called play. I don't know what it's called. I called it fucking awful because if I wanted to move the rig, I had to accommodate for 4 inches before I could actually get the rig to move with me. And so when you're driving, you're just doing this. And I don't know if that means there's something wrong with it or I'm sorry, Ronnie said it's called play. I don't know if that is something wrong with it or if it's inherent to that kind of vehicle, but that was like, nope. I don't want in an emergency. I think that 4 to 5 inches like could be the life and death. And I just, nope, that was it. It was done. Done. I hated it because the whole time you're doing this. And then if you have to do something quick, you have to compensate for, and then you can actually turn. Done. That was it. So I called Becky, Patreon, Battlefield Becky. Sorry, I'm getting like really worn out. Battlefield Becky and Patreon Deb the diplomat. And I called him and I said, hey, we're done doing everything we need to do. Why don't you come on over and take a look? I just wanted to see what they said. And Deb and Becky got up into the Tiffin first. And both of them saw exactly what I saw, that thing was beat to hell. And then we went over to the fifth wheel. And I didn't say anything. I just let them walk around. And the three of us walked into the bunk room. And all I said was, I just think that this would be a really great office. And Becky said to me, I think this is it. And Deb said, this is it. And I literally squealed. I went, because I liked it so much. I just knew that was it. So another lesson is I fought doing this so hard. I did not want to come down here and spend the money and the time and all that and like go walk around a bunch of RVs. I wanted to do all my negotiating online and then just go get it. Cause I just like am very black and white about business purchases. And I did not want to do this. There is so much value in just taking that day and just walk and just stand in them. And you will absolutely, I promise you know, in the same way you knew that it was going to be your spouse, whether that was your first spouse, your third spouse, your third, whichever one it was, but in the same way, yeah, you will just know, because we all have a different what we want to be in every single day. And when I saw that office, the kitchen was great, but when I saw that back room back there, I was like, this is my edit bay. This is I never even had that in my house. In my house, I had to use my dining room. And I was like, this is a perfect size. I could see on the shelves where all of my batteries were going to go. There was a perfect area for my tripod. I was like, this is it. And then even in the other room, I thought, this is a beautiful home where if I do interviews with people, I can have them in here and I've got all the space to do it. And I just knew. And the fact that my lady gang at the same time, I didn't say anything, but they both knew too. And I was like, we're done. This is the one. So Clay like went back and like got the numbers, and it was too much money. It's brand new. It's a brand new fifth wheel. And so the great thing about that is that it's going to already have a warranty on it. With the Tiffin, I was going to have to get an extended warranty. I understand that people have really strong feelings one way or the other about warranties. I personally have always purchased warranties not on electronics, but on anything that I buy that would over $2,000 to replace. I typically buy a warranty. I really loved my home warranty, and I had a warranty on the ProMaster, and I only had to use it once to replace a door gasket, and I like having them. So the great thing about the brand new fifth wheel is it already has a warranty. To add a warranty onto an old used Tiffin, I was looking at $5,000 to $9,000. So I accommodated for that in the price, but it was still too much because you also have to factor in the cost of the truck. So I told Clay what was going on, and Clay did the damn thing. Clay got me exactly where I needed to be, and he was phenomenal. I'm going to do a whole video thanking Clay, and if you come to Lazy Days, I hope you will give him your business because he absolutely deserved it. There was no bullshit. He was totally respectful, and we just cut to the chase. This is what I need. Here's my budget, and like we made it happen. So that is getting inspected and picked up on Wednesday. Another thing that Lazy Days does, which I am really grateful for, is that once you buy it, you are allowed to stay overnight on the Lazy Days property to make sure that everything works. So if there's anything that needs to be fixed or wonky, you will know your first night and you will be here. So I will not be back in North Carolina. So if there's anything wrong with it, we will fix it while I'm here. So I've got to use furnace, air conditioning, take the longest shower I can, all that while I'm here. Broken, we fix it the next day. The second thing they do, and this is huge, is they have a driving course. And that I wanted to do in the Tiffin, although it was not hard to turn in the Tiffin. Honestly, please, especially ladies, it was 33 feet long. It was a little scary at first. The steering wheel sucked, but you can absolutely drive these things. I learned that anything over 40 feet is when you have to start driving like a tractor trailer, meaning you have to pull, and Ronnie actually may know more about this than I do. You need to pull all the way out and then like compensate then to turn. And that's going to be very different. The 33, I drove it just like a car. I had no issues at all. So please, ladies in particular, do not steer away from getting a longer rig if you really like it because you're nervous about driving it. Like if I can do it, you can do it. Absolutely. So the fifth wheel, obviously you're towing, you're setting up a hitch. That is more work. I'm aware of that. Won't be fun in the rain. Also aware of that. But they have a driving course specifically for Lazy Days customers. And so on Wednesday, the day that I pick it up, I will get to do a full-blown driving course before I head back to North Carolina. So now you know what I'm getting. You have to backing in, make them work with you. The reverse steering. Okay, thank you so much, Ronnie, for mentioning that. The thing that I think I'm most concerned about with the fifth wheel, which I think is anyone's concern, is backing it in. And when you back in a trailer or a fifth wheel, and I watched Deb deal with this with her trailer, is that you have to turn the opposite direction. To get, if you want your trailer fifth wheel to go this way, you got to turn this way. I will say that on new Ford pickup trucks, they have something called backup assist, and it coordinates the electrics on both sides. So on the new Ford pickup trucks, you can get a feature that will make them talk to each other the same. So if you want to go this way, you turn it like a car. So I'm going to have to learn how to back in a big ass fifth wheel going the opposite way. And I'm going to guess that this is something that I'm probably going to hate doing for a little while. And I'm probably going to swear a lot while I'm doing. And then I'm just going to do it. It's like anything else that I've done that has been big and scary and awful. There's a period of time where you have buyer's remorse and it's freaky, and then it becomes your new normal. We're just going to do the damn thing. The theme of this channel is you do the damn thing. If getting that beautiful home with an editing studio means that I'm going to have to do a couple to figure out how to back it up, that is not an overwhelming sacrifice. We're just going to do it. All right. So now where we are today. Today I went to look for a pickup truck. The one of the motivating forces behind the fifth wheel is also that while the Scion is not at end of life, it's not. It has 112,000 miles on it. It will go for 100,000 more. It is at a point where I am having to put a lot of money into it to keep it going. Not only is there an issue with the belt, but when I took it for inspection, it did not pass inspection because they said, quote, the tires in the front are deteriorating from the inside out. And I'm like, well, don't you have some duct tape? I mean, just tape that shit back together. We're good. So with some money, I could put the Scion back together again and be done with it. But I have had, since 2004, the Scion and I have been on so many adventures. I have needed her as my home. I have taken her across the country 3 times. I've done many road trips in it. That car owes me absolutely, positively nothing. But again, this is like a different we are doing a different thing. A year ago, I bought a ProMaster and put a tiny home in it and asked some people on YouTube to watch the adventure. And today, I have these amazing people in Washington, D.C., who I'm doing all kinds of cool stuff with. We are in the middle of shooting a documentary. And, sometimes you just have to upgrade your gear. And so rather than put money endlessly into the Scion to keep her going, it was also kind of a good time to upgrade the vehicle. So I have to get a pretty heavy-duty pickup truck. One of the things, someone said sell it to a college student and let them fix it. The plan with the Scion right now is, because I'm still in a transition phase, is I'm going to put new tires and a belt on it and keep using it. And then I will likely donate it because I'm probably not going to get any money for it anyway. So I'd rather just donate it. But anyway, the mistake that a lot of people make in buying a fifth wheel is they buy the truck first. And what they find, unless you already own the truck, is that then you go fifth wheel shopping. And I will say it's very easy when you are fifth wheel shopping, especially when you get to the 40-foot ones that have 2 floors and like multiple bedrooms and all kinds of wonderful things, is if you buy the truck first and don't size it out, then you go fifth wheel shopping and you realize that because of the truck that you bought, you can't pull the fifth wheel that you want. And so it makes a lot more sense to buy the fifth wheel first and then buy the truck. And so that's what I did. So now I know that this fifth wheel only supports a payload. Payload is the weight that can be held in the back. That is about 2,500 pounds. And I know that she has to be towed by something that can handle more than 12,000 pounds. That's a big pickup truck. Okay. So I took that information And I went to a dealership today and I fell in love with a 2009 formal rental. It only has 20,000 miles on it, certified pre-owned, but you will need for that much weight, at least a 2500. So you're looking at a Chevy Silverado 2500, a Ram 2500, and then a Ford 250. And these two, the Ford and the Dodge, are going to tow the most. So I know that the Dodge tows a maximum of 17,000 pounds. The Ford tows about 18,000. So I've still got some wiggle room to add a generator and all that hummus, because that's going to weigh a lot. So I fell in love with this truck. I told him what my budget was. And of course, if you've ever bought a car, you know that you go through this whole bullshit rigmarole where he's coming in and telling me that the best they can do is $48,000. Plus I have to add that fifth wheel hitch, so that's another $2,000. And so I said, that seems too much to me for pre-owned. It's also out of my budget. Can you do any better? And long story short, but they gave me a whole rigmarole about how I was getting so much equity, and this was like an amazing price for this vehicle, used pre-owned vehicle. And that the blue book was like way higher, and I was like, this amazing purchase, and they were like, just buy it today and then you can go get your fifth wheel. So I walked away, because remember, that's my biggest tip for buying a car, is to speak your piece, say what you need to say, and then walk away, and then let them do the math on their side. So I get out to Deb and Becky, and they picked me up, and I Google, or I look online for what a brand new 2019 Ram 2500 sells for, and it's $48,000. So they were trying to sell me the used version at the same price as the brand new one. And so I'll let you guess what kind of chat we're going to have tomorrow. It won't be pretty. Hashtag pray for James. But I've got to find a truck. So Lazy Days has offered up a truck that someone is trading in. I have some concerns about that because it will not be inspected, because they don't inspect anything. It's a 2018 Ram 2500. So it's essentially the same truck. It has 40,000 miles on it. And, once again, they've assured me that it's going to be great. It'll be a great truck, but you really don't know until you get there. And the whole theme of this story is, I don't give a shit how pretty the pictures are. You really don't know until you get there. So the heat is on to find a Dodge 2500, used or new, for as close to $40,000 as we can possibly get. I am going to ask for some help on that search. So if you have any time and you were able to help me plug in those numbers, used or new, Dodge Ram 2500 crew cab, I think it's only a crew cab, and in the $40,000 range, that's where we're at. So, and I don't care if it's a 2013, 2014, anything like that. I just need to know it's in good shape. These diesel, it's a Cummins diesel. A Cummins diesel will outlive me. I'm not worried about that. So the year doesn't matter. Yeah. T Ham said, I hate car buying. And I'm like, yeah, it's awful. It's awful because the whole thing is bullshit, and you can't just go in there and be like, I told him the second I got in there, I said, my budget is right around $40,000. Like, can we make that happen or not? And what they do is they seduce you when they put you in the sexy pickup truck, and they're hoping that you will just suddenly spend $8,000 more. Funny side story. And I really did like the salesman, but he's still a salesman. When we did the test drive, we start driving, and I'm like, I'm loving this thing. I mean, I feel more comfortable because I'm lower to the ground. It has way more torque and horsepower than anything else I've ever driven. Torque is how fast your truck will essentially start up and get to speed. Horsepower is once you get going. I liked it so much more than the Ford. The Ford, I felt like I should be towing maybe sheep and cattle with it. It's kind of a an agriculture truck, and this thing, you feel like a fancy bitch in a Ram. Ram knows what's going on the inside. I love driving it. And I was driving this man everywhere and just like found out about his whole life story, his hopes, dreams, childhood, whatever. And we get into a really bad neighborhood. And of course, I'm like, whatever. I mean, I spend like half my life in really bad neighborhoods, right? How do you think this documentary is getting produced? So I'm on, really bad neighborhood, and I see a woman who looked pretty rough get into the back seat of a very nice car. And immediately my documentary investigative reporter crime brain goes, that woman, that's a prostitute getting in this man's truck. And I start following them because that's how I shot the prostitution documentary. I just waited for someone to get in a car and then I'd follow them to their car. So we're going through this bad neighborhood and he's talking about the truck and I'm like, oh, I know what's about to happen. I'm like, I remember getting video of this and this guy like knows he's being followed. So he keeps... I ended up taking the poor car salesman through an industrial park to follow this like potential human trafficking lady, just because that's like my reporter brain went off. He recovered. I really think it was an adventure for him. I think he probably is a little shaken up, but after that bullshit price he gave me, he should be shaken up. I don't think that many car salesmen get driven into the hood and follow a prostitute around. But if you're in the car with Casey Roman, that stuff is going to happen. It just is. Okay. All right. So I need some help, please. Pretty please. We are taking possession of the fifth wheel on Wednesday. If I don't have a truck, I have to pay $1,500. I'll say it again, $1,500 for them to deliver the fifth wheel up to North Carolina, $2 a mile. They will deliver it. It will cost me a fortune. So we need to find, again, Ram 2500, used, new, I don't care, reasonable mileage. The budget we're shooting for is around $40,000 because I still have to pay $2,000 plus labor for that hitch to get set up. All right. Yes. Ronnie pointed out 3,500. The reason I haven't looked at a 3,500 is because it costs more money, honey. So what essentially I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the budget for these two pieces to be the same as the Tiffin because that is my budget. I fully understand that I can finance to the end of the world, but I'm really trying to make this a very financially responsible decision because if I go over my budget, that means that I can't buy pieces of gear that I want. If things break, I feel like we all agree that you need a buffer. So Ronnie, I'm going to ask you to message me privately everything that you're typing here about all the things that I need because I'm going to forget them. Monica, it is not a dually. A dually truck is a truck that has two tires in the back. They are monsters. They will pull the gates off of hell. And I may need that feature to let all my friends out one day. Not that I'm going there. I'm going there to rescue them. Dualies are I feel like dualies are maybe a little bit antiquated, a little bit. They used to be the only game in town that could pull an extraordinary amount of weight, but I feel like these newer models of pickup trucks, I mean, this Ram 2500 will pull 17,000 pounds. Like that's kind of nuts. All right. So it's not a dually. I really don't want a dually, but we got to find this truck. We got to find this truck because we got to get this thing back to North Carolina. The drug unit is like waiting to see the war wagon. They're also really jealous that I'm going to get this like cool pickup truck because they're a bunch of dudes. And then what we're going to do next is I'm going to do the walkthrough and I'm going to try to see, I know on my GoPro, I can go live from my GoPro. I just don't know how to do it. So that's my project tonight. While Becky and Deb are hopefully sleeping. So I'm going to do a walkthrough. I'm going to show you this whole thing. Clay left the key for me and, it needs to get babed because I babe out everything. So the war wagon is going to get, totally changed inside, not totally, but changed inside. We have to design the office, figure out how the office is going to be built because Becky and I are going to be tackling that. And then, like colors for, I'm getting rid of those hideous like valance things. We're going to do curtains and like and the hardware. It's like that silver hardware. I will not own anything that has silver cabinet hardware. And that's because when I started in news and I had to live in Section 8 housing, the cabinets and all that housing had those cheap silver knobs and those cheap silver sinks and those beige cabinets that rolls over it's like it's not like a 90-degree edge, it's like a rollover with a dark brown seam. And I told myself that if I ever did anything marginally successful in life, that I would never live with those things again, and that I will not own silver cabinet poles ever. So those are coming out. So I'm going to show you in the walkthrough what it looks like. We got to figure out how we're going to babe it all out. There's furniture that has to be moved around, and then we got to bring it home. And I have some feelings about the first pole in that thing is going to be 625 miles from Tampa to Wilmington. But by God, the War Wagon is going to be on the war path all the way back up to North Carolina. And then we're gonna do what we do on this channel. Paul asked, what Section 8 housing? Section 8 housing is when you have vouchers from your local government because you are below the poverty line, and so they subsidize the housing. And when I started in news, I made $20,000 a year in an extremely expensive living area because it's on the coast. And so I did not have a Section 8 voucher. I had an apartment in a Section 8 area, but it's very cheap, worn down housing because it's subsidized. So that's what Section 8 housing is. Okay. I don't know. Oh God. Someone just dropped in and said, I just dropped in. Did you buy the Tiffin? Honey, you're going to have to rewatch this video. Can't. The answer is no. Anyway, so that's where we're at. In a million years, I never thought that I would buy a fifth wheel. I'm going to have to eat some major crow. I think that's the saying about owning a fifth wheel. But again, as I said in the very beginning, one of the most important things you can possibly do if you are thinking of doing this or about to do this is think about, for the next year, don't go any further than that. Life changes. In a year, how am I going to use this rig? And since I already did the turn and burn, run around stealth thing, and I'm shooting a documentary and doing all this cool stuff with my DC peeps and dragging Deb and Becky of my lady gang clearly all over the place, I'm going to be in spaces longer than I was. And I will just say this. After I moved out of my house in, I don't know, more than a year ago, and then I was in that completely empty house where I just had a mattress on the floor. And then after that, I lived in the van for 7 months. And then I lived in my car for 7 months. There is, because I'm going to get all kinds of feedback that it's too much and it's stupid. And there is a very big piece of my lady's soul that needs a home right now. And I have every intention to stay on the road and be traveling and moving around. And I loved everything about that, like, nomadic world. But there's especially after this car thing, I need to have my babe cave back, and I need some level of feeling like I have a home again, and I'd be in my scenario. So for some people, the Class A is going to be the greatest thing because maybe they still have a real home, but this is my full-time home. And damn it, in your full-time home, I think you are entitled to have a real bed and a kitchen that you can put more than one plate on, and you know what, whatever else you want. So you only get to live this life once. And I had the huge adventure in the van, and right now I would really like a beautiful editing studio so that I can put even more beautiful stories out into the universe, because for whatever reason, that was the gift I was given. So if I'm not doing that, then what's the point? So we need to get back to that ASAP. All right, I'm going to read through some of these comments. I've officially worn myself out. I need tea and I need some food. And I will post up a link of the War Wagon. Oh my God, I forgot, like, the most important thing in the world. I'm so sorry. This is the most important thing. As you know, I have named it the War Wagon. But I forgot to tell you what we're going to name the truck. This is like the best part. All right. Babe Bus War Wagon. I name everything, and everything has a story behind it. Do you all remember when I was in Louisiana and I got stuck? Remember I tried to move the van and I got stuck in the sand? And I had like the entire Cajun rural police department down there like trying to pull the van out. And and it was just like such a shit show. And if you remember, the end of that story was because no one could get me out of the sand that I was stuck in. Um, they called one of the deputies said, "Well, just call Bob." And at that point, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, "Who is Bob? Who cares who Bob is?" And around the corner in nowhere, Louisiana, in the bayou, this huge truck comes around the corner. And out of that truck came an angel from heaven, a shirtless, hairy bellied, big bellied, bald, big man in his boxers, flip flops, and a cigar. That was Bob. And Bob looked at me and looked at the van, and he put a chain on the back of the van, and he got in that big ass truck. And none of us had a big ass truck. And he popped the van right out of the sand. And I was like, "Can I pay you?" I mean, like, oh my God, like you're a saint. And 2 o'clock in the morning, this guy came out. And he didn't want any payment. He took a big drag of his cigar and he was like, "No, that's all right. I'll see y'all later." And they said that Bob was just a local who liked to help out his police department once in a while and that he would just come out. And then I had nicknamed him at the time Shirtless Bob. Shirtless Bob saved the van when the van was stuck in the sand. And so the truck that will pull the war wagon is officially named Bob in honor of the shirtless angel that saved my van. So we have got to find Bob. This is Mission Shirtless Bob. Find the truck in his honor. And by God, if I ever go back to that small community in Louisiana with the war wagon and Bob the truck, we are going to find Shirtless Bob and we're going to have a reunion that will be the quality of like some CBS Sunday morning special with like dramatic emotional music where we both hop out of our respective huge pickup trucks and like run to each other. But I don't want to hug him. I don't like hugging shirtless men with hairy stomachs. We'll like fist bump at most. I'm not a big hugger. I don't like to be touched. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me find Bob the truck. We have got to get this done. All right, I am totally parched and getting a little delirious. So that's the big news, kids. We have got a war wagon. It is only appropriate that since we named it beforehand a wagon, that it is a fifth wheel. We are going to be tearing up this country. In that fifth wheel, we're going to produce a documentary about meth in that fifth wheel, and we have to babe it before it really does anything else. So start picking out paint colors that go with dark gray cabinets, and let's find Bob. Everybody, last thing, thank you so much, because the past 2 months have really been absolutely horrible. Emotionally, like train wreck. I had to apologize to Patreon Noreen this morning. Noreen, bless her heart, made a completely innocuous comment that I took the wrong way. And like, the short end of this story is that I had to apologize to Noreen. My fuse has been very thin. My sleep deprivation is real. It has been very tough, very stressful. Being homeless sucks. And I did it because I was trying to save money so I could actually afford to make this happen. So yes, it was worth it, but it has really been a rough ride. Thank you, Patreon Steve, for all your help in like starting the car and sheltering me when it got really cold, and JB and everyone else. But at the end of the day, this whole mission continues because you all have hung in there through the very best of this and the very worst of this. And we are about to start a whole new chapter that I hope will be a much happier and less stressful chapter than what I have just had. So that said, thank you all so much. And those of you who are supporting the documentary specifically, like, it is no joke to produce a documentary. And I didn't think I could do it without the support of a TV station behind me. And what I've learned through you all on Patreon is that I can do whatever the hell I want as long as I've got my lady gang and I got this gang. All right. So everyone have a wonderful night. Please help me find Bob. Let's do the damn thing. Have a good one. I'll talk to you later.